wait till the night before Christmas to be good.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to another episode of the Prehistoric Podcast, whole podcast of Christmas. As usual, this is your host,
Andrew Sorsdahl.
Lee Enfield.
Lee Enfield, okay.
Jordan Gall.
I'm Jason Gall.
Have you both been on the podcast already?
No.
Nope. First time.
Either of you? Oh, we
First,
Kit.
Yeah, we had Kit.
We should
Yeah.
just Kit.
This is before. That was before he was.
Okay. Well, since our very small but rabid audience needs to know, tell us a little bit about yourselves.
I'll let the older brother go first.
Yeah, I'm Jordan Gall. I'm the drummer for the Brothers G, and I live out in Hafford, Saskatchewan.
Yeah, I'm Jason Gall, the lead guitar player and lead singer of the Brothers G. And when I'm not doing that, I do a lot of farm labor, a lot of manual labor, and I like to make little arts and crafts on the side.
And counting to three.
And counting to three is can be difficult for some.
It can be.
You guys, that's exciting. I didn't realize you guys hadn't been on the podcast yet. We've just been doing this a long goddamn time. So I'm starting to forget. How did we originally meet you guys? Did you go to Dogpatch first and meet?
No.
No,
that
it was the Skull Creek session, I think.
Oh,
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
Liet was like, yeah.
Yeah, I'm doing
Kind of through Liet, I think.
Yeah.
Indirectly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Actually, we kind of threw Liat into that session there. Initially, he was supposed to come. It was all like slotted, figured out, and we showed up to his place on the date we said, and knocked on the door, and his mom answered. And she's like, "Who are you guys?" We're like, "We're here to pick up Liat." And she's like, "Oh, he's still at work." So we hung out with Liat's mom first.
Liat being at work, that's a pretty big, wow, that must have been a big date. Not passed on the couch somewhere. So tell us
Throw him under the bus.
Tell us a little bit about the Bros G's history, the sound. Give our audience a little bit of a taste of what you guys bring to the table.
The Bros G history, so I don't know, when did it start? 2017, 18?
Yeah,
something like that?
2017. We had played in a cover band in Hafford for quite a few years and just kind of wanted to start writing songs on our own. And the other guys in the band weren't as interested in going into a studio and cutting tracks, so we just kind of set a month aside for ourselves, wrote 5 songs, and went into our old guitar teacher's recording studio in Saskatoon and laid down 5 tracks and just kind of kept going from there.
And made history.
Made history, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
And the sound is?
That's a good question, Brad.
It's a hard one,
That's
I know.
a good question. The sound is like...
Kind of
I
like
like to-
Diana Ross's Supremes is how I tell people.
It's pretty much bang on the money right there. No, I'd like to say that it's kind of like a combination of punk and rock and country kind of all together, and then with some other influences. It's kind of
Heavily blues influenced for sure, because that's where we all kind of learned how to play.
Very dependent on what we're listening to and stuff like that. We kind of, for some reason, gravitate towards what we like at that time, and it kind of constantly changes. But it's currently right now, it's a pretty big, heavy kind of sound. Like, I don't know.
I feel like as we've worked in this industry for as long as we have now, and we work with young bands and people who are coming up, it seems like the people who are kind of taking their sound, in my opinion, like if you're kind of in that rock sphere, a lot of the people who are doing well and taking things really seriously come from blues, and that's where they kind of like
That's where their roots are. Yeah.
And even if you're not necessarily catching that in all their sound all the time, it's ingrained in everything that they're doing, because that's where they're learning to play.
I think with the blues too is it's such a it's a deceivingly simple format that when you're learning how to play or learning how to play in a band setting, it's really easy just to drop into a 12-bar thing and you can catch it right away. And then from there you just expand. You learn different progressions and get different tastes in music, but that's just such a focal starting point, I think, is the blues.
Yeah. And I've always loved the kind of like Jack White approach to kind of like, play the blues but not play the blues at the same time. So I kind of like trying to think about that with our stuff, like with writing and stuff like that. I'm like, how can we do the blues but like spice it up a little bit,
Yeah,
Just
throw
amp it up a
some
little bit.
stank on it in some way.
Yeah, throw a little stank. Little
Yeah.
stank.
I'm going to jump right into this. So we are going to I'm going to host this, I think.
Okay, sure.
Andrew will be our tiebreaker.
Sure.
No, you can't. You can do 3 votes or a tiebreaker. I had it in my head there were going to be 5 of us sitting down, even though that was never going to be the case. So I don't know.
I can't believe this. You helped me count before. And
I
now.
know, I know. I'm trying to figure out the difference between 3 and 5, and my whole mind's getting blown here. But what I want to kind of do, at least to start, is we want to start, especially sometimes when we're interviewing guests, I want to get you guys' feeling for top 4s. Like, slot in your top 4s of, I think I want to start with music and then move into movies.
Okay.
And then I somehow want to transition this into us deciding the greatest movie and the greatest band of all time. So
love it.
I'm going to
Okay.
work that in as we go. But I want a...
Is there a reason like top 4, top 5? Is that another like 5 is a scary number or?
Yeah, and again, I don't know. This 4 is going to be... This is going to be big.
something.
Okay. So I'll just use your first initial of your first name to sort these out. And that should be able to keep things straight.
I had to think about it for a second. I was like,
Well, just if it gets tough, just add second initial.
Yeah, exactly. I want your top 4 bands.
Top 4 bands.
Now, I'm not being specific. You don't have to do bands all time. This can also be favorites.
Okay, and
Or a
so
blend.
the ranking of this is like 1 being the top. Or okay.
Yeah, 1 being the top. Or this can also... No, let's not do that. We're not going to rank these ones. These are just your 4 top.
Okay, it can be any order.
They can
Okay.
all be tied for first.
I'll put the Rolling Stones in there.
Okay, Stones.
Yeah, I have to put the Beatles in there too, I guess.
Okay. Remember, you got to get in his head a little bit too. I'm going to let you think more. Come to you.
Yeah.
I'm actually gonna put the same 2 down, the Beatles and the
God
Stones.
damn it.
That's just a gimme. Wilco, that's number 3. You can put that down.
Okay.
And
Sorry, I wasn't thinking when I was listening to Jordan.
Obviously, like Rebecca Black, we decided.
Rebecca
can't count
Black,
that.
no.
She's too good.
yeah, that's top
Friday.
notch.
She's an automatic.
Automatic grandfathered in. Yeah.
I'll go Waylon Jennings as well.
Okay.
Oh, good one.
Waylon Jennings. Oops.
Johnny Cash.
Okay.
That'll fill
Oh,
me out.
yeah, another good one.
And trying to think of like a good blues guy here. Let's just do Freddie King.
Okay.
Ooh, that's a nice list.
Okay, now I actually have a really cool Johnny Cash story I just learned the other day that I'll tell everybody. You guys might already know this.
Okay.
Okay, you know the Girl from Saskatoon, the Johnny Cash song?
Yeah, yeah.
Do you know that like weird story behind this one?
No.
I don't know the weird story.
Okay, so Johnny Cash was coming to Saskatoon, and he was going to play Girl from Saskatoon on stage. So the local radio station at the time did a contest to try and find a girl to sing with him. This young nurse won the contest. A week before the concert, she disappears, and then the day of the concert, or the day before, around that time, they found her body on the side of the creek, and Johnny Cash never performed Girl from Saskatoon live ever again.
Oh,
Wow.
Isn't that wild?
that's
And
crazy.
her
Yeah.
her death is still unsolved to this day.
Wow.
They have no idea what happened.
Huh.
Yeah. The last report they have, she was walking alone, and they're like, was it because she got famous and won the contest? Or is Saskatoon just a terrible, sketchy place? The better part of 100 years now. But I thought that was really interesting. And actually, Johnny Cash, for those in the audience that don't know, huge proponent of Saskatchewan. He loved it here. He visited lots.
Yeah.
He used to go fishing up in La Ronge all the time. And when their school needed to be rebuilt, he did a fundraiser in La Ronge, like when he was mega famous. And I don't know, they had like more people in La Ronge probably than they've ever had.
Yeah.
And I think they raised enough money in one night to rebuild a new school or something.
Holy.
Yeah, so he was a big proponent of Saskatchewan. Okay. Now
Well, we have to do ours, don't we?
yeah.
I feel like such a doofus trying to like doing this with people who are actual musicians and like know stuff about music.
Andrew is very
Ah, no, I'm not.
musically inclined.
I like listening to music. That doesn't mean much.
You're a sound man. He just likes the reverberation in his head.
It's so hard to like. I don't know how you guys blended genres so much. I'm gonna go more my favorites than like necessarily greatest all time. Oh man, Marcus King has got to be on my list.
Okay.
That's a nice one.
I gotta have Peach Pit on my list.
Oh.
This is like whatever. I know they're more contemporary favorites, I guess. Weezer, and Oh man, Metallica.
Okay. Now,
No Country, but
This-
that's four is limiting.
see, I was gonna do like a bracket of 12, but you guys picked two of the same, so that puts us at 2, 4, 5, 6. 4 is 10. Yeah,
This is very not well thought out. Let's just keep running with it. Let's just keep running
that's
with
good. Okay, I'm gonna do mine, and it's what's the guy with that looks like two belly? B. Brad.
Yeah.
it. The guy that looks like 2 mil.
Okay, hey, 4 bands out of me. I won't say Metallica because I was going to. I'm gonna go CSNY, Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young. I'm gonna go.
If you don't say, I know one of them has to be.
What? I could be anything. I'm all over the
Okay,
place.
true. It's true. You go. I'm not going to predict.
it's
I'm not
quite
going to
cultural.
predict.
We theory? I was gonna
He's a
say theory,
learned.
but
He's a
then-
learned doctor.
Cultured.
Very, very cultured. I'm gonna put on the band.
Oh yeah.
There we go.
That's a
yeah.
good one.
God, I'm so learned. Like this is so tough because there's just
There's
There's
so
so many
many
good ones.
so
yeah.
many good
Like,
bands.
I'm sitting here thinking about my list. And I'm like, it's all messed up.
Yeah, I gotta change it.
Well, I went with more what I was listening to recently, so that doesn't really help us for best. But
I'm going to say The Who. And then I'm going to say Zeppelin.
Yes, I was gonna say I think Zeppelin
Yeah,
missing
Zeppelin's
is.
good one, too.
Okay, now I'm making a bracket. And then we're
Oh
going to
my
argue.
goodness.
And then
I don't know, Brad. There's
We
a lot
don't
of
have-
paper on the table
we're
right
going to
now.
have a tiebreaker vote. Okay, we're going to go Stones versus Beatles.
What?
Okay, we don't have to do that. We'll do Stones versus Wilco. We'll do Beatles. Okay, how many do I have now? 14? This isn't going to work. Fuck it, don't worry about me. You guys talk about something quick. I'll make this go. Andrew?
yeah, okay. I've always thought the Beatles. I have a lot of respect for the Beatles, but I've always been of the opinion it's like if I never heard the Beatles again at this point in my life, I'd be okay.
If you like never heard them at
You
all.
said that about
Yeah.
ACDC. You can't
Yeah.
say that about the Beatles.
Like I went through my phase of the Beatles. I loved it. I listened to the hell out of them. I feel like I'm not. I respect it. It's not like my favorite thing to. I'm not gonna throw them on personally.
Yeah, that's fair.
Bit
enough.
of a hot take, I guess, but
Not the hottest take. Kit in the band has the take that Eagles over Beatles. He just
I didn't
hates
say
the Beatles.
That's what you were thinking.
you should. Yeah,
I don't know.
I love the Eagles.
I love
The
really
Eagles
the
are great,
Yeah.
but there's no Eagles without the Beatles.
That's the
Like,
thing.
Yeah.
and it's also just
And how do
like-
you wait? But how do you weight that in something like this, right? Because like
It's true.
I might prefer the Beatles, or I might prefer the Eagles, but like you have to respect that the Beatles are like the originator of like everything else.
Yep.
But then you
Created
take
a
it
lot.
back even further. It's like, well, there's no.
Go on. I mean,
Beatles
we haven't
without-
even put on the Trash Men or the Hollies, the Birds, or but they're contemporaries.
Or even going further back, Little Richard, Chuck
Yeah,
Berry,
that's-
all
yeah.
the OGs.
Speaking of OGs, we didn't even put the Wiggles in this.
You know what's funny? Speaking of like us actually being genuine about talking about OGs, and I've seen all this stupid stuff online where it's like, hey there, like talking to young people, it's like, what year were you born where you're old? And they're like, anybody born before 2002 is old. I'm like, that's not even funny if you're young. Like 22 is not old.
Yeah.
Even if you're 18, like a 6-year-old doesn't think someone who's 22 is old.
Yeah.
Stupid. I'm like, and I'm just clickbaiting on there like, fuck you, I'm not that old. And they're just getting exactly the response they want on me.
Brad's getting more and more stressed. There's
I'm
more and more
caught.
gray hair coming out. Just,
I'm paying more.
no, well, there's
Original
none at
gray
all.
hair
There's
starting.
none at all right now, right?
just the beard, just the beard,
Yeah.
and the pubes. But
Yeah. That's not. Anyway. Okay, but you were saying something. I cut you off.
I don't know. Beatles. I don't know.
I mean,
I'm
not
over
like
them.
I'm not like listening to the Beatles like constantly or anything like that,
Mm-hmm.
but like it's something that I like to come back to. Like check out, like listen to a couple albums and.
They're like a comfort meal of bands.
Kinda
Like a
yeah.
nice casserole. You always kind of come back to it at some point. Usually
That's
in
fair.
the winter.
Yeah, usually
fair.
they're a winter band. You wake up, it's -40. Here comes the sun. Yeah.
Make you feel a little bit better.
Yeah.
I could see that.
The other thing I find with the Beatles is for me is a hard band to just put on in the background Because unless you're by yourself, but if you're with a group of people, there's always somebody that's going, oh my God, it's Hey Jude. Like, let's talk about the music that's playing right now. Like, you can't just enjoy Eleanor Rigby because somebody's got like, my mom loved Eleanor Rigby and she was a circus animal. I don't know what to tell you.
My mom has a jar of rice somewhere too.
Yeah, exactly.
What about Beatles? Okay, here's one. Beatles covers. Do you guys throw them into your set ever? And if you were to, what songs would you want to cover and perform?
Well, we used to. We did Come Together for a little bit,
Ooh,
and
cool.
that's a good one. But like the thing with me is like Come Together is like everybody covers Come Together. Like if any band covers a Beatles song, it's Come Together.
I think a couple years ago, 3 bands released covers of Come Together at certain points in the year.
Yeah.
That's
It's
wild.
just
It's
overplayed.
one
in
of
my
those
opinion.
songs, yeah.
We used to do. What was that one that we used to do? I've Got a Feeling.
Yep.
We did that one. That was a pretty good one actually. Except
That tonight's gonna be.
What-
Yeah, I love that.
love that Beatles song. It's so good. Brad, you just keep working on what you're doing there.
Okay, I got this. I think I'm good.
Did you figure it out?
The band? Have I got the band on? Yeah, band. What a confusing name for organization. Yeah, I've got the Who. Okay.
I saw last point on the Beatles covers. I saw I saw Marcus King live, and they randomly listening to the set, and they near the end busted out a cover of Dear Prudence.
Oh,
and I'm like,
Oh,
what a
cool.
bold,
That's
what a
cool.
bold cover to throw out there.
Yeah,
like,
yeah. You don't hear that one.
no,
He can kind of take any song and make it his own. Like Marcus
Totally.
King's just got his own sound to.
Yeah.
Francois is over there with a giant flashing sign about, do you hate the Foo Fighters?
Oh, yes, we hate the Foo Fighters.
I don't
guys
hate,
hate
the
the Foo
I don't
Fighters?
hate
What?
the Foo Fighters. I love the Foo Fighters.
Yeah, Foo Fighters are great.
I love the Foo Fighters.
Oh, some other friends in our group hate the Foo Fighters adamantly. So I'm not curious about with our musician friends because it seems like it's fucking either you wish them burn in hell or it's like whatever.
I feel like
They made some
Yeah.
great records back in the day. I don't really care for their input after Wasting Lights, like 2014.
I don't know,
But
Concrete and Gold was a pretty good album.
I like
Yeah.
Concrete and Gold.
I thought
okay,
that
I'll
was
give
pretty good.
Concrete and
I don't know
Gold.
about like stuff after Concrete and Gold. I don't even know if I've actually listened to a lot of their stuff after that. But like,
No.
I would say, but yeah, like Francois makes a good point. Like I find that too. There's a lot of people that like with Foo Fighters is either you absolutely love them or you absolutely hate them. Like there's not really a middle ground in there, sort of. But
Yeah.
no, I like them. I don't really keep up with them though. But,
yeah, I'll occupy the middle ground space from the Foo Fighters.
Wow, we found one.
I'm also a middle ground guy with them. They most recently released, which is so unfortunate that it's Taylor's last music video now. That
The songs that I love.
Yeah, that's the
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
And the songs and the albums that I love from them are like, they're constantly in my
Pretender
rotation.
is like, I love that fucking tune.
What if I say
And that
you're
music-
not
And the music
like
video is
the
awesome.
others?
Walk, that's another great music video where they
Yeah.
kind of
Mm.
parody.
Yeah.
What was that movie they parodied for that? It's the
know.
one with Michael Douglas where he's stuck in traffic.
Yeah, because that's the one where he's like walking through the traffic.
Yeah.
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 All the traffic.
My favorite Michael Douglas movie is the one where he's walking through the traffic. Okay. I've got.
Also, notably absent from our list, Nirvana, which is one of those ones that like people love.
Nirvana wouldn't
I'm
be
not-
on my list, to
Yeah,
be
they
honest,
wouldn't- that's the thing. They're on none of our lists. I know people who would like if they were watching, they're screaming at the fucking screen like, "Where is Nirvana on this list?"
Okay, well, I'll scream
just
back
like-
at them. They're not on the list. They're not here.
I just like. I'm sorry. I just really don't think that if Kurt Cobain hadn't died like he did, that it wouldn't be as. Yes, they created a movement. It was amazing, but his death and the circumstances around it really pushed it.
Amplified it.
Yeah, it kind of martyred that.
Yeah,
band
it
into
martyred him, and
success.
it not only I think elevated them at the time they were, but it also helped them
Yeah.
continue on. Like
I mean,
I don't think
Yeah.
Nevermind is as big of a thing continuing on forever. And it's like, let's keep interviewing the baby that was naked in the pool. If Kurt
Yeah,
Cobain
yeah.
didn't
Yeah.
die. It's like, yeah, I'm still the guy that was naked in the pool 30 years
Well, I heard
ago.
a thing. Wasn't he trying to like sue Nirvana or something like that?
I think his
And then-
mom, his mom was. I
Oh,
think.
okay.
Yeah, for like.
Well, they interview him every 10 years. It's like, yeah, I was still the naked baby, and now I look a little older than the
Yeah,
last
yeah.
time you interviewed me.
Not much
Yeah.
has changed. You know what I'm saying?
Still working at Kmart. I'm glad to tell you.
The naked baby from Nirvana got his first gray hair last week.
Yeah, well, exactly. That's what they're like, and I don't think,
Yeah.
I'm
I
obviously.
mean, I love Sublime, but I kind of feel the same about Sublime a little bit. Like,
What about with Rome?
Not a fan. Not a fan.
He does a passable job.
Well, they have Brad's kid singing with them now, right?
Yes, I haven't done a deep dive into that era now, but I'm curious about it for sure.
Yeah.
Is,
Just going back to Nirvana for a second, though.
Yeah.
My take on it is there was just way better bands coming out of Seattle at that time. Like, you look at Soundgarden, Alice in Chains, Mudhoney, like...
Yeah, exactly.
I think they were just providing something more
But there's
musically
a lot
engaging.
of, like I was like, reading some biographies and like listening to some autobiographies and stuff like what was one that I was listening to? Guy from Screaming Trees.
Mark Langer.
Mark Lanigan, yeah. Mark Lanigan, and then like even Anthony Kiedis' book. Those guys were all saying back in the 90s, like, Nirvana was something different to see, though. Like, Nirvana was just, at
Like
that time,
live,
everybody loved Nirvana. Even the other bands in the scene loved Nirvana. Like, so.
well,
They
Kurt
kind
had
of
a
caught that cultural moment sort
Yeah.
of thing.
Kurt
Yeah.
had a mystique. I think that the other members of the band really didn't stand out, so it really made him, like, he was really the centerpiece of the band.
Yeah.
Because Dave Grohl was a kid, and what's the bassist name?
Chris Novoselic.
Novoselic was like also just like kind of a. I love Novoselic was sweet, but he was just kind of there. Like, I mean, as far as a caricature in the band is concerned. And
Anybody who can play a bass that low,
yeah, he's a
they
big
deserve, they deserve something.
And I think the other thing is like, the name is catchy as fuck. Like, I don't care what you say, but like
Nirvana.
Okay. This is gonna be hilarious and awesome because I paired some things up that don't make any sense. Metallica versus Waylon Jennings. Who is the better band?
How do you do that? They're so vastly different.
I'm gonna stay with Jennings.
Okay, we got one vote for Jennings.
I'm going to go Waylon as well.
Okay, 2. Jesus.
I have to go Metallica. They're the greatest rock band.
Okay, Waylon Jennings beats Metallica. Both very culturally relevant, I think, in their own way.
Two very different cultures.
Two very different cultures.
There's some crossover.
There's some crossover, more than you would think. I think mostly on the young and the old end, where young Metallica fans become Waylon Jennings fans as they get older and more into music. And when Metallica fans maybe calm down, they become Waylon Jennings fans.
Yeah.
So
maybe there's like a Benjamin Button effect with some people where as they keep getting older, they actually like Metallica more and more.
okay, this is going dead, but that's okay. Oh no, it's just the tip. Okay.
for a
Stones
second.
versus Wilco.
Stones.
Yeah, I gotta go Stones.
I was going to go Wilco, but okay. Yeah.
It's going faster than I thought. I thought we'd be throwing hands already.
I'm not super familiar with Wilco's like whole I know songs,
Yeah,
but like I
yeah.
haven't done the deep dive into Wilco.
That's fair. That's almost something like when I meet new people, I always want to try and introduce them to Wilco because I think they're just one of those great American bands.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Again, very like I think by and large everyone on here is like pretty influential in one way or another.
Yeah.
The Beatles versus Johnny Cash. That's a slugfest.
That is an extremely tough one.
Oh man, just based on my own preference, I gotta go for Cash. But that's purely based on my preference, not
Like voting
making a
against the
comment.
Beatles is very hard.
Yeah, I got to vote the Beatles on that one.
I
You're the
respect it.
tiebreaker.
I respect it, but
I honestly think I'm gonna go Cash. Actually, I am gonna go Cash.
Okay.
Dang.
Johnny Cash takes one out.
Like I don't know if it's that's so
tough.
that's so fucking hard. Like
yeah.
Okay. Peach Pit versus the band.
I mean,
Andrew.
I love Peach Pit, but like you can't like.
Yeah,
I
that's the
have to
band
say the
for me.
band. Like I mean, I love Peach Pit, but they're like a
we all going
brand
for,
new band.
We all going
like,
for the
Oh,
band.
yeah.
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 I'm going for that. Too.
That's tough.
King versus CSNY.
I mean, again,
Not
like,
Marcus King.
what's that?
CSNY.
Freddie King versus CSNY.
Freddie King. Okay. Yeah, Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young. For
Yeah,
sure.
I'm gonna go Crosby as well.
Okay.
I have to. I just
There's
have
a. I've probably said this in the podcast before. There's an awesome, free, very short CSNY documentary on YouTube that everybody should watch because it's fucking hilarious. Watching Neil Young dip in and out of a band for 20 years. They're like, they finally get back together. They're like in Philadelphia or something, and
hundreds of thousands of seats. Or 100,000
these
seats.
stadiums are sold out. He leaves a note. Well, sometimes when things don't feel right, they just don't feel right. Good luck with the rest of the tour. I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? Weezer versus Led Zeppelin.
I mean, like, I love Weezer, but I can't say that they're better than Led Zeppelin. Like, that's crazy.
I'm going Zepp.
I gotta go Zeppelin. Like, bit of a
the ice and snow.
bit of a mismatch. I think.
What's that? Marcus
can you even
King?
read?
Okay, Marcus King versus The Who.
I'm gonna go with the Who.
I mean, I gotta go with Marcus King,
I'm
just
going The
preference wise.
Who.
But
Okay,
Yeah.
we're going The Who.
Keith Moon, man.
That's true. R.I.P. Okay, now I'll re-bracket this. You guys keep talking.
All Brad's gonna
One
do
of
in this
my-
whole podcast
it's
is
just
just make
bracketing.
brackets.
that seems about right.
Bracket Brad.
I love that there was a petition a while back for Neil Young to change his name to Neil Old. That got like 100,000 plus
I haven't
signatures.
actually. I never even heard of that until now.
Yeah.
Wow.
It got like.
Oh, tell
like
them
a
about the one that
crazy-
actually happened. The internet name change that you
Oh.
love, that we love so much.
So Macaulay Culkin, on his whatever
You guys haven't heard this
platform.
probably.
No.
So he was going to change his middle name, and he put a vote out like the top whatever person. I'll change my
Like
middle
suggestions,
name.
like you can
Yeah.
write in
write it in,
responses.
Oh, okay.
and whoever got the most like upvotes or whatever was going to be what he changed his middle name to. So he ended up, as a result of this, having to change his middle name. His legal name is Macaulay Culkin. So they voted for Macaulay Culkin to be his middle name.
So
it's
his
either-
legal name, it's Macaulay Culkin.
Yeah, so either Macaulay Culkin
So-
or
His middle name, Macaulay Culkin. It's all one name. It's all one word.
I think it's
No, it's two words.
It's two words.
Two? Okay.
Yeah, it's Macaulay Culkin.
Or that's the thing. How do you say it? Do you say it Macaulay Culkin, or is it Macaulay Culkin?
I think both are fun.
I think the first one is even funner because it's just like Macaulay Culkin.
Yeah,
Macaulay Culkin. Yeah.
So it's so absurd.
Okay.
Sighing in unison there. That's
That happens way too often.
Okay, this is for people who do brackets at home. Don't pay a lot of attention to what I'm doing because we're
pretty
throwing.
bad.
Please don't try these brackets at
Do not
home.
try.
Don't try. You guys said you were in the studio a lot recently, and like playing gigs. Do you have anything coming up that you're really excited about?
Well, actually, I mean, we got like 2 gigs this weekend.
Yeah, we're
yeah.
playing in Big River on December 6th at the Big River Theater. And
Nice.
then December 7th, we're back in Saskatoon at the Long Branch.
Oh, the Long Branch.
Yeah.
Okay, I did hear about that one.
And the Long Branch gig, we got Will Ardell opening for us. So that'll be...
Hell yeah, that Will was telling us about that one. Yeah,
Yeah.
that'll be good.
Yeah, okay, so I did 14, which then boils down to 7. 7 doesn't fit into a bracket. I need a vote on who gets a bye. Waylon Jennings, the band, Zeppelin, The Who, CSNY, Cash, or the Stones. Right now, I have the Rolling Stones to bye.
I'm good with the Stones to buy.
Yeah, the Stones. Yeah, that
Okay,
sounds
sure. Okay.
for the fact that they're still relevant and arguably as relevant as they were when they.
We're gonna put them down here, and we're gonna do like this, and then they will compete against this.
Even the last record they put out, I had a good listen to it. And they're just as viable. They're still writing good stuff.
Okay,
That's
Waylon
crazy
Jennings
to me.
versus the band. That's a good one.
That's a really good one. I'm gonna go with the band.
Yeah, I was gonna say
Yeah.
I gotta go give the
band.
edge to the band. Yeah.
Okay. Now we have Led Zeppelin versus The Who.
I'm going Zeppelin.
I'm going Who.
Zeppelin.
Okay.
The child in me
Zeppelin
would
has
never
it.
forgive me.
Oh,
Okay. Now we have CSNY versus Johnny Cash,
Cash.
Cash. Yeah.
Yeah, Cash.
which is incredible if you think about it, and I don't disagree. I'm way more on the fence. Probably would take me a little bit longer to say Cash, but Johnny Cash is an independent songwriter and performer. Basically, obviously, like he had lots of writing partners and stuff. Up against 4 independent, some of the greatest writers and musicians
Like as
of
a
all
super
time,
group, yeah.
and then in
Yeah.
a super group to still lose to Johnny Cash. I mean, I think that
That's
speaks
strong.
volumes.
That's
I think
strong.
Cash too has one of those, long careers where he always had something good coming out. Like
Yeah.
his '90s stuff with Rick Rubin is just incredible.
Yeah, I mean, he's like I don't think like Stephen Stills wasn't. I don't think definitely not as late. Like those guys weren't doing things. I mean, most of them were like just repeatedly overdosing on heroin, like getting onto boats and getting into international waters.
Looking at you, Crosby.
Neil Young singing
David
songs about
Crosby
it.
went on a boat and they're like, "Please come back off the boat or we can't play music with you ever again." He's like, "No, I'm not going to jail." Fuck you. Okay, and then Led Zeppelin versus the Rolling Stones. We got the Great British Bake Off over here.
Man,
Jeez Louise.
I have to give it to the Stones, but that's not easy. Just because there's my argument for the Stones over Zeppelin is that the Stones, like we said, they're still relevant, putting out music, and still influential, whereas obviously Zeppelin is
Wow.
it's echoing through but like they're not a current still a band. They're not haven't been a band for as long.
Like you said, Stones has been a band for what, like over 50 years?
Oh, yeah,
60
going on
years,
60
something like that.
years.
60 years of actively
But does Greta
performing,
Van Fleet's
recording.
music count as like?
No,
Brad, shut your mouth.
They're
Fucking
the
Greta Van.
continuum.
I'm gonna go with. I gotta go with the Stones. I have to go with the Stones.
I'm going with Zeppelin, and here's my argument for it. I still think, even though they're not really as relevant today, it was the 4 best musicians in England at that time coming together. Whereas the Stones, they had, members come and go. Zeppelin just held it out for all those years.
But the Stones
That's
had
fair.
like the same lineup for at least like 20 years, probably.
True. But they didn't
Which
have
is still
John,
longer
they
than
didn't have John
Zeppelin.
Bonham playing drums though. So
Yeah, I would have to give it to Zeppelin, but that's a personal preference thing, just because.
Same.
Like,
Yeah, I
like-
prefer Zeppelin's music for sure, personally.
And that's the thing. Like, you put
But-
Stones up against the Beatles. Yeah, the Beatles had a big impact, but like you said, like the Rolling Stones have been doing that. Like, they've got to be the longest active. Like, if you have a scale of active length and actual viability over like all those metrics combined, just fucking near impossible to beat. Really.
Yeah, yeah.
Like
Yeah.
to remain
Yeah.
relevant for that long and still be doing stuff.
That's
And-
why I had to
and-
edge it out to the Stones.
just to even still be together for that long,
Like,
like,
and
and not kill
alive.
each other, yeah,
yeah,
Or killing themselves.
or killing themselves, yeah.
with drugs and alcohol typically. But
Okay.
so we're 2-2. No,
Yeah.
No, now we've got.
well, no.
Well, there's 4, right?
Stone. Well, I'm saying, what's the resolution on Stones versus Zeppelin? Because
Oh yeah, we're Stones.
the two of you said,
No, but I was just putting my 2 cents.
Ah, gotcha.
Brad's opinion doesn't count.
Okay. Johnny Cash versus the band, which I can't believe the band's made it this far. I love the band.
The band is good.
The band's important.
We're just so we're very influenced by the band, so that's why I kind of
I love them.
I love the band.
They're an American.
band against Johnny Cash though. Oh, okay.
Yeah, how do you
Jesus.
compare? How do you do that?
God, I don't know. I think I might just. I'm going Cash. I'm going Cash.
I gotta put my heart into it too and say Johnny Cash.
going Cash.
Yeah, I
Like
would
those are some of
agree.
the first songs we learned how to play.
Okay, gentlemen, we're down to our final.
And there's something to
The
be
Rolling
said about
Stones
an
versus
individual.
Johnny Cash.
Man,
Are
gut
you going with
feeling.
Team North America or the UK?
Gut feeling is Johnny Cash. For
Keep
me
it in the
personally, but-
Commonwealth.
Yeah, yeah, that's true.
I gotta go with the Stones.
Yeah, I think I'm going with Stones too.
I
Okay,
respect
you
it.
heard it here first on the 12 podcasts of Christmas. The Rolling Stones is the greatest band of all time.
Now that's actually kind of ironic because that's literally like their motto.
Yeah.
World's greatest rock and roll
Yeah,
band.
yeah.
World's
That's
greatest
like
rock and roll band.
new. This just in Coca-Cola, great soda.
Yeah, yeah.
Check it out. If you haven't, might be
It's-
the best, most recognizable soda in the world. If you didn't know,
Yeah.
Okay, so looking back at this list, in your guys' opinion, because of our runner-up, would you rank Johnny Cash as the greatest solo singer-songwriter artist of all time?
It might be like a thing between like Johnny Cash and Bob Dylan.
I was just gonna say Dylan's
Like Bob
up there
Dylan.
too.
And mind you, they did a lot of songs together too.
Yeah.
but does Dylan lose points for
Pretending to
con-
play
pre-
Hurricane for 30 years.
continuing to perform that whatever fucking abomination it is that he calls a show
Like, is he
at
still,
this point?
he's still going?
I don't know if he's still going.
Like,
honestly,
I
but-
don't really pay attention to like any of his newer stuff. Like, I'm pretty much like late '60s,
Oh, I mean-
mid '70s kind of Bob
so
Dylan.
we had
and
a
that's-
friend come and visit 10 years ago,
Yeah,
and he was like Bob Dylan fanatic. And Dylan was in Saskatoon, and he came back, and he was like, "I'm like
It
put a
hurts me,
catheter
yeah.
in. I'm not leaving the front of the stage for the show." And we got back and we were like, "How was it?" And he's like,
He was like, I think he played
he's like, "I
Hurricane.
think he played Hurricane." And he's like, he just tuned his guitar for 40 minutes and then left, and they thought he was coming back, and then there was like, "Okay, guys, show's over. Thanks for coming out."
Wow.
So, it's one of those die the hero or live long enough to save yourself, become the villain.
Yeah,
I
that's
think
what I'm wondering.
Johnny
Yeah.
Cash, and for me, what puts Johnny Cash ahead, that fucking Hurt cover at the end, capping his whole career off. It's just like,
Man, I remember as a
That's
kid
true.
watching that music video on like CMT.
and then he just like died right away after.
Yeah.
And it's like, I'm going out.
What
with
a,
my
I was gonna say,
way.
what a way to end. I want to
It's
know
like,
to end
don't
on.
hear from me for 10 years, and now I put this shit out, and then I'm out.
yeah, yeah.
See ya.
Yeah.
See ya, 40 ex-wives and 80 kids I've never met. Just so many unpaid heroin dealers. See ya. I'm out.
I
So-
pay you with this song.
Yeah,
and then
there you
out.
go.
Yeah.
Enjoy the hits. No, I think it's pretty tough to argue against the Rolling Stones. I mean, like, I was thinking about this the other day independently, and I was like doing some research, just like, you know, trying to get an amalgamation of lists online, because it's like whatever, guitar.com and the Rolling Stones magazine.com and who's you know. I don't like when they go like top 100, because like I don't like, I'd rather just like give me a top 10 so I can try and decipher through. And the funny thing is it's like, really, when you get to the top, they're always like the Who, Zeppelin, Beatles, and the Rolling Stones, and it is really incredible that basically a small region of the UK was like, and within a 15-year window, it's like regularly named the top 4 bands all time.
Yeah.
Like
They're pretty much creating pop culture.
And I mean, like,
Yeah.
you're also like, Sabbath's right in that same window.
Absolutely.
Totally different sound, but like
Yeah.
definitely in that same window.
Yeah.
And it's like, what the hell was going on there? Like, what was in the water?
There's a bunch of bands that you could list now, or I'm even thinking of now after we did this, or I'm like, how are they not even on the list? Like, for me, Red Hot Chili Peppers, like, how did they not even how are they not into the conversation? You know,
Yeah.
the
Well,
newer
even
stuff.
the grunge
now.
guys we were talking
Yeah.
before, like Soundgarden.
Soundgarden,
yeah,
yeah.
absolutely. No, I mean, my God, we didn't even say
Queen.
Evanescence.
Queen, I was gonna say Queen didn't make the list either. Like, that's crazy. I love Queen. That's so good.
And Queen, another example of a British band that was coming out around that same time in
Yeah.
the 60s and 70s.
And yeah, I just like, you can't. It's like I love a lot of the American sound stuff too, and like Beach Boys and stuff. But it like the Beach Boys just aren't the Beatles. I'm sorry.
No, no.
They just
Yeah.
never will be. And like Brian Wilson's story is really incredible, and Pet Sounds and 10,000 Didgeridoos, and like, I mean, they obviously like had huge impact on music, but it's just not. They were always like, we're trying to beat the Beatles, and if you just don't ever beat them, then
Yeah.
that's like John Lennon gets shot, and here we are. Like,
Yeah.
again, the Beatles have never been nothing.
Okay, here's another music question. I'm always curious about with our people who actually know anything about music.
The instrument tech.
How do you feel about Bare Naked Ladies?
I don't mind. Like, I don't mind them. I mean, like, if I had $1 million, I mean, there's
That's a
times,
fun song,
There's times
yeah.
throughout the day I just sing that song because it's just stuck in my
It's a
head.
fun
I don't,
song,
I don't
yeah.
even have to listen to that song for like years, but I could just like, it's always there. But it's really just that one song for me. About
That's
pretty much
fair.
everything else. I'm like, yeah.
One Week is also a really good song, I would say. But for me, the Bare Naked Ladies are just kind of down to a few songs that I like.
Now, when it comes to like
Another
actual
middle
like
ground.
Canadian bands and stuff like that, and another band that did make the list, Tragically Hip, that was like that's a huge influence on us.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, huge.
I'm definitely like hip over Bare Naked Ladies.
I feel like ironically both of those two bands, if you're not a fan of one or the other of them, they get reduced to for me, like, until I did a deep dive recently into the Tragically Hip. When I thought of Tragically Hip, I'm like, and it's like,
fair.
okay, I've heard that song a billion times. Then you actually go into the depth of that catalog, and it's like, oh, it's way more than that one thing that everyone heard on the radio a ton. I think personally, I love the Bare Naked Ladies. I think they're a lot more than just like the two songs that everyone knows, which is like, if I had $1 million in 1 week. I think those are like, they're fine songs, but like, I don't think they define that band. And
No,
there's
I
some
think
depth in that catalog if you go looking.
It
but
is. I wouldn't give the Bare Naked Ladies the same depth that I give like.
No,
Some people are a little too up Gord Downey's ass, and he was an awesome artist. Don't get me wrong, and I don't want to catch flack for like he was a great artist, but I'll also like. Especially when you live in Canada, the hip never got their shot in the States thing really amplifies them here because people are like pissed off that Americans never really liked them.
Did you guys watch the documentary that they put out on Prime?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah,
it's
that's
great.
Absolutely, but getting back to Gord's thing, he was having a lot of trouble in the band before the diagnosis. Like there was a lot of internal strife, and
a lot of it was
seemed to be deriving from him just wanting to go off and do his own thing, anyways.
But that's kind of what happened even earlier in the Tragically Hip. Like they were kind of writing songs together and doing that kind of stuff, and then Gord Downie afterwards was like, like I kind of want to do all the lyrics myself. Yet he still gave equal songwriting credits to everybody in the band, even for his lyrics. But it kind of that's where it started, and I think progressively it kind of went like. He just wanted to do his own thing, right?
Right.
And like I'm not super big into like the Gord Downie solo stuff. Like I like the hip, but like the solo stuff, I'm like, this literally just sounds like the hip, but just more weird.
Yeah.
More like a slam poetry kind of sort of way.
And I think that's like, I think the rest of the band kind of tempered Gord from being too artsy. Like I don't think
balance
they
each
even
other
have
out.
a shot in the States of being like as radio relevant. If they don't have the rest of the band, probably tempering some of that, like sit down with a beret and do slam poetry. Like they kind of took his amazing songwriting and artistic vision and like molded it into something that was like actually marketable.
Yeah.
Which I think there are a lot of artists like that, honestly. But the thing that I personally love about the Bare Naked Ladies, and it's not necessarily even about their music or the catalog.
Yeah.
It's like it's kind of and I think our generation, Andrew and I, probably a little bit of you guys like really at the tail end, it was kind of an end of a Canadiana era that doesn't really exist anymore, like the like SCTV Wayne's World, like Arrogant Worms, like that, like it's okay to be goofy and eclectically Canadian.
Man,
the
Arrogant
Much
Worms,
Music
God.
of era, if you will.
And it's
Totally.
like, and then it's like, and it kind of started in like in Canada, like Yorkville 50s into 60s, and then it was like kind of that period where, believe it or not, like CFL and NFL were like comparable football leagues, and like things were weird. Like we were putting hockey teams down in the States, and CFL teams were in the like down in the US, and like it was just like now everything's very cut and dry, and if it's all very corporate, and we very much copied the States. Like our stuff isn't trying to be unique anymore. It's just like make the CFL more like the NFL and make hockey more like what the Americans kind of think of that sort of thing, and it's and it's kind of lost a little bit of that, like, now we need to be Saturday Night Live because we can't do our own, like, Royal Canadian Air Force shit. Like, we cut all that stuff.
Yeah.
And
That's
for
true.
me, the Bare Naked Ladies is kind of like the end of that goofy Canadian identity.
Yeah.
Where it's like, it's
We're
okay,
actually
it's okay
trying
to
to-
not be American,
yeah.
and if they don't like us, who gives a shit?
Yeah.
You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So that's, I think, for
Yeah.
me, where I have, like, a personal thing with the Bare Naked Ladies. But
I would agree for sure.
And I even think of, like, fucking the Guess Who, like, coming out of
Absolutely.
Winnipeg, and it's like a band out of Winnipeg could do something, and now it's just like, oh, who's big from Canada? It's like Drake and Bieber because they're based out of Toronto, or Nickelback happened to make it, but it's a rock thing.
And it's simultaneously this massive rock band that's also like our greatest shame somehow, and people just like make fun of, and like
But
I honestly fully admit I jumped on the meme of the hating Nickelback. I thought it was fucking funny, and I wasn't a big fan to be fair, but it's gone to the point where it's like, no, we should.
I think
take
musically,
ownership.
it's just like you get to a point where when Americans didn't like bands like the Tragically Hip, and we tried to push them on the States, they're like, well, we don't get it. I'm like, yeah, that makes sense. You're not trapped inside all winter going crazy. Like, we have a common identity that you guys don't have.
Yeah.
Whereas I feel like modern stuff is more. What do you guys think about future of like big Canadian acts, bands, artists? Like, where do you see? Like, because I think we focus on old stuff. What do you think about new stuff coming out?
It's tough to say because I think just the music industry in general has become a thing where it really doesn't matter where you're coming from. The internet is putting it everywhere. So you see someone like Chappell Roan, who's coming from, I think, Illinois or one of those Midwestern states, and just blowing up within a matter of months. So I think for Canada, it might not matter where you're at. Like, it might not be a Bieber now or a Drake having to come from Toronto. It could be a band from Saskatoon
Well, even,
or
look
St.
at-
John, New Brunswick.
We'll look at who's that, Natalie Hoffman, like she's from Alberta, right?
Nolene Hoffman.
Or Nolene
yeah.
Hoffman, my bad. And like she's playing all these shows with Zach Bryan and stuff, right? And she kind of got TikTok famous, and then all of a sudden it's like went from playing to 200 people at the Palomino to like playing to 30,000 people somewhere, right? Like just for like night to day, just totally changed, right? And that's what social media is there for, right? So even for us, like that's the way that we look at it. I'm like, the only way we're gonna achieve any kind of success is just as long as we push out content. Like,
You're not restricted by those borders in the way that you were before.
No.
Yeah, before you had to get a record deal down in the States
Yeah.
in order to just start playing there, really.
And so much of this, I think, too, from our, something we've noticed from our perspective, I guess, as working in the music industry, but like kind of sort of being part of like, I like to think at least disrupting the previous model, where before it was all about how do we get people to buy the record, and now that it's like no one's making money on record sales. Like if you're making money on record sales, you're like a massive band, and even then you're probably not making money. You're just not losing it. So I think the shift from the music industry, where 90s, early 2000s, it's buy the record, and now it's like, okay, you got where do you make your money? Ticket sales, merch sales.
Yeah. And I was gonna talk about that. Like the whole ticket thing is crazy now too, right? Like we're literally paying like $200-300 to go like see this act. But mind you, we stream all of their music for free now. Like we don't have to. We're not buying records. We're not doing any of that kind
That's
of stuff.
the balance,
right? So
right?
you have to. We do just have to pay more. Like
Yeah, the artist needs to get their cut at some point, and live is kind of all we got right now.
And that's kind of the problem, I think, in music especially, and why people are noticing all these ticket price hikes, is because we've moved the opposite on everything else in media. You don't pay to go to the movie anymore. You just pay a streaming fee that's pretty easy to swallow. $8, $12 a month subscriptions. It's way easier when it just automatically goes on your credit card and you don't think about it. And then in fucking January, you're going like, where the fuck did all my money go last year? And now it's like, okay, I spent $800 a year on these subscriptions, and I want to go see my favorite band. It's like $150. Like, my God.
Like, at once?
You're giving them one shot. Like, that's it. You're not just slowly trickling money into their account. Like, they almost need to do like a sign up for a concert ticket thing and just take money out of your account, then you just get free tickets.
I think Spotify would be a lot less evil, frankly, if it was way easier to support artists directly through that platform, and like not just like buy their merch, like an actual like have some type of way to like, I like what these guys are doing, put some money towards their next project, like some kind of
like
hybrid GoFundMe.
Yeah, because what
thing.
I can't figure out about Spotify is where all the subscriptions go into a pool, and then from there it gets divvied up based on how many streams. So Taylor Swift is getting the money from people who might be streaming, Deftones.
Yeah.
And wouldn't it be better if you're streaming Deftones, I can just pay for it directly and have it not go to Drake, Taylor Swift, etc.
Yeah.
And they just like put all these minimum thresholds in, and that's where they're making big money. It's like,
oh yeah,
getting enough people on that aren't listening to enough to pay the artists, but then they're collecting the fucking dues every month.
Yeah.
Because I go on and I listen to a lot of local artists, and I'm paying the same amount of the people who are listening to regular big commercial bands, and
but that's
commercial bands are
proportionally
getting my
not.
cut of what I'm putting on, even though I'm not listening to Drake. He's getting some of my money for sure. Spotify's really.
It's tough because like now that the genie's out of the bottle with
There's no
streaming,
going back,
it's
and
like
somebody's got to. A solution has to come eventually, because we're going to stifle the arts, and that's not good.
Yeah, it's
Like-
well, and then like
They kind of tried to do it with Tidal because they were, I think, running a different subscription basis where I think
the
it
payout was
higher-
different.
It went directly to the artist. But
Yeah,
anyways.
it's tough because like on both sides of things we're the thing is, I think with video streaming, that has a net positive for video creators because they're so thirsty for content on those streaming platforms. There's way more opportunities for independent production to get money for their thing that they're making. So video streaming, I see it as more of a net positive for creators, whereas the music streaming, it's clearly a net negative because there's that
absolutely
revenue that's lost. So, but for the
And then
consumer,
you have like artist advocacy agencies like SOCAN, for example. And I recently rented out the brewery to an ag company, and the ag company brought the Johnner Brothers in. And usually, without a special permit, we don't have live music at all. And it's a whole thing with the Broadway community I don't want to get into. But SoCan catches this, and then they're coming after me. They're like, well, you need to pay SoCan fees. I'm like, I didn't host the event, so you need to go after the ag company. And, like, it took me, like, 2 weeks to get them to understand. It's like, I just rented the space out. They're the ones who license the music, so they need to pay for it.
Yeah.
And then I'm thinking back to myself, like, is this really the advocacy that we need? Like, chasing me down for $400 because I had the Johnner Brothers in my building? I'm like, meanwhile, Spotify is just really bending over and raping everybody else. And it's like, the Johnner Brothers need this $400. I'm like, I think your resources.
So you can't even have, like, a nice little, like, this little show, right, without paying consequences to that, right? Like, it's like,
and it's like the whole point is supposed to be advocacy for artists, but, like, who's actually getting advocated for and why, and, like, how are you going?
Is that making a difference? Also,
is it actually making a difference? I don't know, because that's where that advocacy is where actual change can be seen, or because you gotta target consumers and make sure they're doing things differently.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, and I think what they need to do is, like you said, a company like SoCan chasing after you for $400 to pay the Johnner Brothers, they should make that applicable for younger bands as well.
Yeah.
So that when we play our original music, we can get a pay from that, because that's how that SoCan fee works, right? It's the licensing, but they don't offer it to a band under a certain threshold,
which is the people that need to be protected,
exactly,
so they can grow.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's like this. Like, yeah, you look at a lot of these big, like,
It's like
federal, these big federal, these big federal grants for I'm drawing a blank, not SoCan, Factor grants.
Oh yeah, they just got taken for $2.8 million.
Did they?
Yeah, their bank account got hacked.
Oh, got hacked. Oh, good use of the funds. But it's like all these
again. Sorry.
all these grants going to, like, these massive label artists. It's like, who do we really need to be propping up? These label artists that have a record label and, like, tons of resources behind them that can help them apply for the grant and, like, have all these connections with people who are adjudicating the grants. We need to give those people more of a leg up.
Yeah.
And, like, those mid-range bands, or, like, even lower, that, like, maybe they could get to that level if they had a little bit of fucking support.
Like, even artist as big as fucking Drake, if he's filming a music video in Ontario, the government's paying for some of it. Like, the fucking record label has got money out the ass, but they're not, like, just leaving out this. They're like, yeah, sure, if we can pick up an extra $10,000 from, Nova Scotia Film, absolutely, we'll take creative.
Well, and Factor gets their name on a Drake video, so it's just hand in hand.
And then there's us in our van deciding what we're gonna have, what we can afford to eat that night.
Yeah, McDonald's or A&W, boys.
Oh no, fast food's way too expensive. Something in a can.
Yeah. It make a lot
Canned
of bag
chicken.
salad.
It's like checking the heat on the exhaust to see where the warm spot is to fucking heat up a can of beans. It's like, oh yeah, that fucking manifold's hot. Get her on there. Well, gentlemen, I think.
Well, we decided the greatest band of all time, so, like, we're not going to get much more.
We're not going to get much more than that. Why don't you guys just give us, for our fan out there, why don't you give a little recap on maybe what your next 6-8 months looks like, what you guys are planning to do, any releases, shows, something you want to talk about?
Yeah, next 6 to 8 months. Yeah, we got, like, a few shows this winter here and there. Not a whole lot of live shows, but then doing some recording. Writing and recording.
Yeah, the plan is kind of to get into the studio for January and February and flesh out a collection of songs, see how we want to package it up, and start putting it out in the new year.
Nice.
Got a few festivals we're already linked to. Dogpatch will be back there this summer.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, just kind of see how it goes from there.
And thankfully for organizations that we have, thankfully things like Spotify, there's a no commitment. You already pay for the fee. Go check out the Bros G.
Follow them.
That should be the tag. Spotify, you're already paying the fee. Check out the Bros G. Thank you guys very much for joining us on this episode of the 12 Podcasts of Christmas.
Yeah, we appreciate it, John.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah.
Check them out, and we will see you next time.
All right, bye.
Peace.
That was good. Greatest band of all time.